Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
This will be, I think, probably the third session on agri-food. Today, we have with us Katarina Bliklingova, from the bioeconomy clusters, and we will have also Giedrius from Lithuania and other colleagues sharing with us their initiatives from that country. Okay, so welcome.
I would like to say what Grigoris is here. Grigoris is our colleague.
Perfect, Grigoris. So later, after Katarina, we will give the floor to Grigoris. So welcome, Katarina. Without further delay, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. So hello everyone, once again, my name is Katarina Bliklingova. I'm representing Bioeconomy Cluster from Slovakia. This is my first time joining this type of meeting. Usually my colleague Daniel Ač is present, but he couldn't make it today, so he asked me to take over and to tell a few words about agri-food value chain disruptions. I'm sorry I have not prepared any presentation because this information came a bit late for me and I was not able to prepare any PowerPoint, but at least I will try to share some of my thoughts with you, some of my experience, mainly from what happened in Slovakia, but I'm sure this can be generalized and this of course will be applied to your countries as well. I'm sure about this. So I would like to start with one really general.
Katarina, the quality of the sound is not very good. I don't know if you could put yourself nearer the microphone or.
Okay, is it better now? It's still the same?
We can understand you, but the sound is quite not good.
Okay, I will try with the headset. Maybe it will be much better. Just a second.
Please try that because there is some kind of small echo and a metallic sound.
Okay, is it better now?
It's the same. Go on.
I'm sorry for that, but I cannot do anything better.
Don't worry.
I will try to speak loud.
Okay.
Okay, so let's get back to agri-food value chain disruptions, right? First thing I really have to say is that agriculture is a life process. It means that even despite all this coronavirus crisis and everything, it's not possible to stop performing the activities in agriculture or to close, for a certain period of time as it was possible for different types of shops or whatever, because you work with live animals, you work with live plants that need everyday care. So this is, I think, the main point which needs to be highlighted, and it's maybe a bit different from other types of industries. On the contrary, there is also one advantage that agriculture is usually performed in rural areas. It means on open, fresh air, and here is a bit eliminated risk of coronavirus spread because you are outside and this is what happens, and usually the coronavirus was spreading in large cities or in the cities in general. So what happened to habits maybe of consumers, or what happened to businesses in general in agri-food? I would say that mainly new consumer habits occurred because, for example, people started to cook at home. This is on one hand a really healthy approach because if you are a good cook, of course, and you can prepare a good food. then it's okay. But all the restaurants were closed, and people were preparing their food at home, what in many cases leading to really much more food waste than before. I would say that this happened mainly in the beginnings of the Corona, when people were really buying excess amounts of food, and they were really making large stocks. And then I think later, maybe in mid-April or so, they really found out that it's not so critical, and that food stores are still open without the shelves being completely empty. This is mainly the situation in Europe, I would say. Maybe it's not the situation with the toilet paper in the United States, but really this happened in the early beginnings, maybe in March or beginning of April, that people really were buying a lot of food, and then they throw it away. This is what happened, at least in Slovakia. Maybe you have different experience, but really this is, I would say, a huge problem. Another thing is that every kind of food is today packed in at least one packaging, or even in two types of packagings. So also not only the food waste increase, but also plastic packaging. And this is why I'm saying, because from Bioeconomy Plus, we are dealing a lot with bioeconomy, and this is the issue that really worries us a lot. And this created a lot of environmental risks as well. And due to this fact, also some kind of plastic waste related policies were delayed. On the other hand, I have read some types of articles where they highlighted the benefits of plastic packaging for food, mainly in relation to hygienic standards and human health as well. So this is what happened. Another, let's say, specificity of coronavirus and impacts on food sector mainly is that even new business models occurred, and for food stores, I would say, because really there we could see a fast expansion of e-shops, even for food, what was maybe not so usual before Corona. For example, in Slovakia, even an e-marketplace platform was developed, where, for example, farmers or food producers or even gardeners could provide their local products. Mainly, this happened with fruits and vegetables in Slovakia. Another problem which really raised due to the corona is lack of workforce. This is especially the case of agriculture, because it's a really labor-intensive sector, and it's typical for agriculture in Slovakia that we have old workforce, and especially elderly people are really the most endangered group of people in respect to corona. So this was a huge problem for all agriculture and also food processing companies. And mainly in respect to, for example, seasonal workforce and seasonal and short-term people working in agriculture. For example, this is the case of harvesting, for example, in case of strawberries. Okay. So also I have one example here that in Slovakia the platform to attract the students to work in agriculture was created, which is an interesting activity, and really could be maintained also for the situation without corona. I think it's a good idea, and to engage students into this type of activities. And finally, this is we are clusters, so it means that we have different types of members, and we are communicating with them, and we were also trying to find out what kind of problems they were facing during the corona crisis. So we identified several product-related disruptions. For example, I'm also sure that this is applicable to all of you or all your countries. For example, our food processing companies have problems with raw materials for production of food because most of the ingredients are imported, and due to closed borders or shutdown of different manufacturers abroad, and also slow and really expensive logistics, they really face problems to satisfy the demand and to produce the demanded quantity of food. Also, another really specific example for Slovakia is that we have several farmers who produce large amounts of land meat, and this is intended especially for Italian market, or most of this meat. Don't take me serious right now because I don't know the exact number, but I would say that more than 90% of land meat is exported to other European countries. And as we know, the coronavirus was escalating, especially during Easter, and these companies or farms were not able to export the land. What caused that? Most of the meat has to be consumed in Slovakia.
Sorry, Katarina. The sound is really, as Aurora said in the chat, very difficult to follow you. Perhaps you could, we could jump to other presenter or Gregory's,
Okay.
and you could
I
try.
wasn't hearing, so it's not a problem.
You could try to connect through phone because you can always connect. You can keep the web session open, but you could connect through a phone call. Okay.
Okay, I'll try. But I'm
Please.
in the end with my presentation, so I can hear you well. So
okay. Okay. I am interested in asking because it was really, I'm not sure if I have been able to follow everything, okay? But I am interested in knowing more about what you are suffering now, as for example, the disruption on the exportation capacities of meats, and also about plastics, because you mentioned that you have, if I am right, some problem with
yes.
plastic. Or I would like to know if you are suffering that problem is now or not, or if it is solved, and in any case, what kind of plastic did you have problems with? But please try to connect through phone, and we can return to you later. Okay?
Okay, I'll try.
Thank you very much. Grigoris, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to have the presentation rights, or
I don't have a
okay, don't worry.
PowerPoint for you. I have the document that we shared with you, but I can go a cappella if it's okay with you. First of all,
perfect.
I would like to thank Katarina. I would like to echo many of the observations she made, possibly, hopefully with a more clear sound, but the message will be more or less in the same line. Just to sum up, indeed, our value chain has been heavily affected. And one of the main aspects of this is that it demonstrated how much we are tied together, how much the value chain is interconnected. This is why, from the Lithuanian perspective, we joined forces covering from primary production to food production directly, and we try to speak as one voice, and we try to bring the problem in a whole value chain analysis. Certainly, we are talking about abnormal situation. We're talking, first of all, about huge economic loss. We are talking about a value chain which is heavily dependent end to end to humans coming together, starting from the harvesting and the production up to consumers. And this has created a very difficult situation. We have sub-optimalities in the value chain. We have fluctuations both in harvesting and consumption that make the prediction of the future very difficult, and this by definition results in failures in the supply chain system. Now, indeed, the first steps to respond to the crisis in the short term are related to mobilizing agricultural workforce for harvesting, in educating people from the Horeca sector to work in agriculture, or to try to fix the problems of transport in the supply chain to avoid food waste, to be able to forecast better because our models are made for for normal times, and they are not working anymore when it comes to logistics. And there are quite a few things that we have to look at it from a digital perspective. I'm also very happy that Katarina represents the bioeconomy cluster, because I see very strong need to start bringing together the two main trends that were already existing. And by saying that, let me put a little bit the time perspective. Reality is that our food systems have not been perfect before the crisis. It's just that the problems highlighted by the crisis are accelerating our transformation. Therefore, we would certainly need to look on the situation with the time perspective in three different steps. First of all, the first urgent need is to respond to the crisis. Let's call this the response phase. We are now in the response phase. And in other pan-European initiatives that we participate as the Lithuanian ecosystem, such as the Smart Agri Hubs, we are now working exactly to identify and support financially solutions from SMEs and startups related to that. But then we should look at the midterm. And in the midterm, the square number one should be the restart. But restart not like business as usual, restart under a new framework and taking into account the new landscape. Therefore, I think that this is an opportunity to accelerate the convergence of the two big transformations that our food systems require. One is the digital transformation, and the other one is the circular transformation. We are living in the, you can see all these things in the document. We are living in the times of Green Deal. We are living in the times of Farm to Fork action plan. Therefore, our sector, our value chain, to be more precise, should work towards transition plans, transition to sustainability. And this transition needs both legs. It needs the digital leg, but it also needs the circular and bioeconomy leg. And just to give an example what I mean by that. The crisis, for example, highlighted the fact that the industrial livestock farming systems are not working. We know this for many years. We know the environmental consequences, we know the problems and everything. Now we see it also being reflected in the consumer preferences. We can see, for example, that during the corona crisis, consumers preferred more plant-based products for proteins rather than typical livestock products. But the easy solution would be, okay, animal farming is not good for environment, industrial animal farming. Industrial animal farming is also sometimes considered responsible for zoonotic diseases and so on and so forth. But when we're talking about agricultural capital, transition cannot happen one night. The capital which is invested in livestock farming is not the same type of capital that is invested in some startup in Silicon Valley. It is a capital that has a long-term perspective. It includes, lots of it includes the animal capital, and rapid disruption and distraction of animal capital can have very big, can cause very big problems in the ecosystem. Plus, this sector employs many European citizens, many European people, and we need transition plan also for them. If we want to move them to other sectors, we need to teach them new skills. We need to engage them in new activities. And we need also to mobilize the smart money towards this direction. The so-called impact funds, private investment organizations that are focusing on sustainability solutions should be our ally into this, our sector's ally into this activity. This is more or less putting the framework from our side. As for the next steps, we would like to, if possible, to take the opportunity and try to influence decision-making with respect either to the Green Deal now or when it comes later on to the Horizon Europe, to participate possibly in the missions, to make our voice louder towards this direction about the need for this transition to sustainability and the two components of it. I think that I gave a little bit our framework more or less, and possibly we can initiate discussion.
Thank you very much, Grigoris, and congratulations to all of you for your excellent work on summarizing your answer to the crisis and the proposals that you have made. Congratulations, really. So, I don't know if we have Katarina. Are you there? Can you speak now? Can you try now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Far better. That's perfect.
Okay.
Now. Okay. So the floor is now for everybody. Okay, but I want to start with the question that I advanced you before about the plastics disruption, because we have been studying that disruption from other perspective. But I think it's the first time that we hear about that from the food industry. Could you please tell us more about this?
Okay, maybe you didn't hear everything I was saying during my short speech. What happens with in relation to food and plastics? I would say that today a lot of plastic packaging is used to package the food. You often do not have just one package on the product, but you have sometimes even two packages. And when during the corona, when people were buying really excess amounts of food and really were making stocks, I would say this was even bigger problem, because we really had a large amount of this packaging at home, and people are throwing it away. Not just the packaging, but often even with the food inside because it expired or something like this. So this is a huge problem for the environment, I would say. And because the people were really, or the politicians even, dealing mostly with these health effects and everything, they really now postponed all the policies which are related to the reduction of the plastic waste. So that's one of the problems, I would say.
Okay, but you didn't suffer any problem with the supply of plastics?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yes, I mean, you did not suffer any problem with the supply of plastics.
No, I would not say there was a problem with the supply.
Okay.
I think the manufacturers were working even despite Corona. It was not a problem from this perspective.
Yeah, okay, I understand now. Thank you very much. So, comments and questions from the attendants. Other experiences from other countries. We have a lot of experts here from a wide variety of countries. Please participate.
If I can add, Katarina, I would be really interested to hear the examples of value chain disruptions from other European countries, because this is mainly just my point of view, what happened in Slovakia, but maybe you faced completely different problems in other countries.
Yeah, I think so. We have heard also from Lithuania. Okay, others we have heard from others, but I think that it will be good if today we have more perspectives. Somebody? If not, we will jump to the discussion on solutions. But I am surprised if there are not more agri-food clusters today here with us, or companies.
May I have
Armand?
a question?
Yeah, Felix.
Yeah, this is Felix, if it's okay for you. I'm Felix Arion. I'm from Romania. I'm the manager of Agro Transylvania cluster, and now also, let's say, the president of the network of agri-food clusters in Romania. Well, I just have to make some comments about what was mentioned before, because most of the events was happening also in Romania, but with some specific, let's say, touches in Romania. Firstly, we had the problem, and we still have it, with labor force, and that's about the mobility of labor force, especially in this period of time. It was quite funny that our government really restricted the movement of persons inside of country, but it was quite free for them, for instance, to go to Germany or Italy or Spain to work in agriculture. So that means that depleted labor force for Romanian companies, but supported other European countries. Well, for a national point of view, which I have to support it, it was quite a strange situation, to be honest. That's one. Secondly, it was quite a big disruption into the in this from the other point of view. We have a national program for milk and some breads which are delivered to peoples, actually for young students. Every day they receive a piece of milk and some bread, and of course the schools were closed and they will be open only in September. So it was quite a big problem from that point of view, and really big disruption from that point of view. A lot of stocks of milks remains, and that influences a lot on the market. You know that milk is quite short time living, so it was quite a complicated problem. Of course, I will don't talk about Horeca, which is, I guess, probably the most affected sector from our point of view, and directly it was involved the supply of food, actually, for this sector. And people had to change. Another change in the value chain, it was, of course, based on the consumers, which were most of the consumers were looking for very short value chains. They had the impression that local products will be more safer. And that means they use the phone and computers and the internet to obtain food from local producer. And in some cases, that small producer decided for that period of time not to work together with the traditional value chain they were involved, like a supermarket or other processor, but go directly to consumer. Of course, that was wow. I was just reading what Aurora say in Portugal. Very nice point of view. I really appreciate that. It was not happening in Romania. And I'm just coming back. The small producer decided to go directly to consumer, and they just drop off the traditional value chains. And that was quite a strange situation, because they had contracts and they decided not to go with that provisional contracts, but goes to other contracts, going directly to consumer. Of course, the crisis now it's almost done from that point of view, and that was influencing into the same time now the quality of let's say traditional value chain that existed before. So they have to go back to the same processor and asking them to include them in their value chain. Well, it's not very fun from that point of view. Another stuff, talking about the plastic stuff, I will not be very detailed. Most of the consumers here, and I suppose not only here, were looking for that kind of food which was really, really very protected. Means as much plastic as possible, meaning that plastic should be very hygienic and that they will keep them away from the disease. I suppose that was happening all over the place. It's not only that buying in excess, which now is wasted food. So from that point of view, that was the, let's say, the most important facts that that affected let's say the value chains here in Romania and in agri-food, and also the feeling that the supporting measure from the government was not really working, that was not really supporting the losses from the sector. This is our feeling at the moment. We are hoping for the best, not only for us, but for the entire Europe, and we are very happy to be here, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Felix, for sharing with us. One question: are the children now returning to the school or
No,
not?
as I told you, they will come to school only in September. So the
Only
school will,
September.
yes, from the middle of March until September, the schools are done, except for the final classes, which have to pass some final exams, like, I don't know, baccalaureate in France, something similar like that. So the classes that the students which are graduated 8th classes and the 12th classes, they have to pass that kinds of exams. So they can come, if the parents agree, they can come to classes for some intensive preparation before the exam. But otherwise, all the schools, university, everything is closed, and it's distance learning.
So could the reference from Portugal be communicated to your government and suggested as a possible solution?
Yes, that is very interesting. I didn't know about that. If I would knew, I will support it. Until now, we had a different, let's say, communication with the government, different supports, mostly by the clusters, and we are supporting as let's say strong power. And I didn't know that what was happening in Portugal. Otherwise, for sure, I would try to support it. That will be very good for everybody. That fight.
Thank you, Aurora.
Welcome.
Also, that's the kind of things that make sense for us to share this kind of references, best practice. Thank you, Aurora. Thank you, Felix. Marek, you had a question before. Okay, if not, does anybody else want to share or comment?
I would like to propose to discuss about our idea to create agri-food group and discuss about our ecosystem. I think it's important to agree how we can move forward, how we will continue our work. It would be good to hear feedback from DG Grow, maybe to discuss DG Grow about our ideas and what is our group, how many participants we have now, because most of us are from Lithuania, Latvia, maybe Romania or Portugal. And
Slovakia,
I think
also
Slovakia,
France,
yeah.
Spain.
Maybe we need to concrete our actions and next steps and to go deeper. And it's my proposal maybe to discuss now about it.
Okay. Now I have received interest. Yes, interest of participating in the agri-food expert group from quite many countries. Okay. What we need to do is agree on a internal meeting of the group in my mind. Okay. With a proper doodle, just to be sure that everyone can be in the meeting. Okay, how would you organize that expert group?
Hello, this is Grigoris. Some ideas. We are not dogmatic about those ideas. It's just some possible ideas to move forward. I think it should be to try to work in both in the short term and in the long term perspectives, and try to create some concrete proposals, and then in parallel try to identify the opportunities that these proposals should be shared, should be passed. So how can we influence the decision making as the voice of the European sector? This might be from services of European Commission. This might include ongoing initiatives and projects that are having a pan-European flavor, and they're taking care of it. So practically, on one hand, we need to produce the knowledge, to produce our proposals for overcoming the crisis short-term and mid-term. But on the other hand, we need to promote them. We need to work in the direction of acting as evangelists of the solutions that we will agree that we want to proceed. And this might be at the decision-making level, this might be at the sector level, to engage as many actors of the sector as possible. And this is like two first steps that we could think of.
Marek.
Yeah, thank you. Just question about disruption still. In the value chains, what happened is that actually at the crossroads with tourism, which had yesterday, when the situation came and the demand for food, of course, decreased very much from restaurants and supermarkets. I mean, supermarkets not that much, but restaurants. So the question is one about how the shift was organized logistically. It worked. And then what about the waste of food production, which was generated due to the fact that there was no uptake by the tourism sector? Could you refer to this? I'm sure there were disruptions in the market. Please share with us as concrete as possible, as precise, so that give examples if you had. Please, I believe there were much more disruptions in this sector than you just mentioned. Thanks.
Who answered that? Hello? Katarina, would you comment on Marek's questions?
I'm sorry, but I heard only maybe half of what Marek said, because now my connection is not that good via phone, so I don't know what's happening.
Okay. Marek was asking for concrete examples of disruptions, for example, in the value chains. How did you balance, for example, what you were not sending to the HoReCa, the food and the products that you were not able to deliver through the HoReCa channel? If you balance that to other channels, so what did you do? Okay, with concrete examples.
For example, in Slovakia, we have this state reserve, and this helps a bit from the level of government, that we can spend all these, let's say, excess food or milk or whatever to state reserves, and they can handle through selling it through different types of entities, either in Slovakia or now when the situation is getting better and they are able to open again all the channels, so they can sell it now. So through the state reserves. I don't know if
Okay. Grigoris.
Yeah, it's exactly this kind of solutions generated during this COVID. We would be very happy to hear.
Yeah, it's the first time that I hear about that kind of state reserves being used.
In Lithuania, our companies changed strategy, and companies who worked with HoReCa sector, we started to produce different products and more oriented to retail, for example, and it was the fastest decision in our country. We change a little bit strategy, and we don't have how to say waste of products. I don't know. It's not big problem in all country.
Felix, will you comment? What did happen with the milk? There were not possibility to transform it in cheese, for example. Any other attendant sharing examples?
Antonio, I'm Ilaria from Italy. I can share that concerning the milk, the main movement from the industrial sector was to decrease the price of the milk, maybe still accepting that, but with a very decreased price. So, for example, in some regions, institutions started to help livestock and other farm companies in order to, give some money in order to cover this lack of resource.
Thank you, Ilaria. That's Milan.
Thank you.
Felix.
Yeah, sorry, I had some problem with connection. Yes, as you mentioned, that was one of the solutions to try to process actually the milk into the cheeses. But I told you also the consumer were, especially for cheeses and vegetables, they were looking for very short value chains. So what was happening at the same time, some of the biggest processor companies just decided not to collect the milk from small producers. So actually the pressure remains on small producers, small farmers, and not so much on big companies which producing milk and dairy products. Well, I know that it's unfair, but that's a competition that was happening. And I want to mention, I just take advantage of being now at the microphone. Another problem that we have it with the value chain of Romanian, it was about, let's say, around 2 weeks after the crisis really exploded in Romania, and it was decided not to export anything related to grains. So everything that is grains, cereals, to remain in Romania, but they close everything, not only grains and cereals, but the products made from cereals, and that was really funny, meaning that a lot of loaded trucks were blocked on the borders. They were not allowed to go, and they had different kind of products prepared for Easter celebration for different part of Europe, like, I don't know, different kind of biscuits or different kind of sweet things made by flour, and they really negatively affected the interest of the producer and the entire value chain, not only Romanian but nationally value chain. That was quite a problem. It was solved in somewhere in around 1 week at the pressure of producers which were really affected by that decision. So the problem it's quite let's say interconnected in Romanian, and not only Romania but with European products into the same time. What was shortly happening, but shortly now it's coming back, it was that people seems to be when the crisis began, as most of the supermarket in Romania are not Romanian but are from other European countries, they had a problem in supplying themselves. So a couple of products, basic products, almost disappeared from the shelters. and most of them because they were not coming from Romania, but they were imported from other countries, and they probably decided to support first their national market. And that, let's say, for a period of time, decreased the, how to say, the interest of Romanian consumer for imported products. So people decided that it's much better to consume locally and nationally products. Of course, that was happening for 2 months, and then again the prices are the most important factors which make the buying decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you give us examples of how cluster help on that situation? Any one of you? Sorry, because
Yeah,
we
but
are.
I can comment on that. We have in Romania a national association of clusters. And since the pandemic crisis started, we had in every single week a meeting, and we are preparing different kind of position documents. We are defending in front of the government, of the ministries or regional governments, to support the interest of our members and actually support the sector of activities, in fact. That was one. Secondly, we decided to have as a cluster to create a virtual shop of regional and local products, and to disseminate that information and to support that information. So the small producer, which were really affected by that kind of market, were open to sell online. Also, we supported their position to be in front of the government, to be open and to let them to sell the products on open market. So the open market were open all the time during this crisis. It doesn't matter if there was some kind of, let's say, a restriction of circulation. Thank you.
Very good examples. Thank you. Thank you very much. Karel, would you?
No, it's just a very simple question. If you see that you have like these milk cooperatives, I think in the Netherlands they are very famous to negotiate jointly prices with distribution. Would this also be a feature for a cluster to take care of? And beyond milk, maybe more for general food distribution, so to make the position of the producer a bit stronger, because it's of course very known that many producers are squeezed and against each other, right? So to drop the price. It's a question. I have no clue.
Who could answer the question?
No, just I can
No
say
answers.
that talking about the negotiation of prices in Italy is made by the agricultural associations. So private associations representing farmers that try to lobby with the industrial part, but the history says that they are not making it so success in this, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. I would like to hear more opinions, comments, experiences from other attendants. That's important to have your references. Will you share?
Antonio, a question related to that, and I see a lot of disruptions between international food traffic versus local food traffic, but what are the opinions of people from agri-food industry on revaluing or rebalancing a bit this duality, let's say, in globalism of food versus localism of food? I'm not saying that everything should be again a short chain and that you can only buy products from your own place, but it's also clear that in such a crisis as this one, that suddenly the local food is way more valued than before. So I would think, how could we embed this more or make this more sustainable or support this more so that it's acceptable? It's not only, I'm not saying that we should only support the producers, but also it's a bit awareness raising about consumers as well. If they pay peanuts for products that are imported from the other side of the world, there might be some serious questions where the negative externality lays from this €1 product, which is never the real price of such a product. Not to mention the quality of the product, and that they probably don't even know what is in there. So, okay, you have the standards and de facto, so that is like security. But further than this, you see that suddenly this whole new chain is revalued, but I'm sometimes a bit afraid it will be only for the short term. And as the colleague from, I think, Romania witnessed, once the other products are coming in again and the price is lower, yet they return. So that is not so good for local production, I would say.
Comments? It has been discussed that two perspectives from I could think about, for example, the problems from Lithuania that we heard in a previous session about the exports of produce from there. Okay, Idris, will you comment on that?
I think we need to support food product export to third countries and to promote export to third countries, because now when we support local producers and small short value chains, we have competition between countries and between small producers and big producers. And I think it's reality, and maybe we need to support small companies, but don't forget bigger producers who can help for our food sector and to sell more products. And now our institutions and our Ministry of Economy preparing export promotion plan, how to help Lithuanian producers to sell products and to sell for export countries, especially to third countries as USA, Canada, China. It's our main priority. I think our clusters, we can help for companies, but we need to have more tools how we can support our producers, and maybe the European Commission can discuss and can prepare some programs related to clusters as tools who can help for export promotion. Our country is small, and half of our products go to export, and we don't have big local market, and every day we work with export.
Okay, I will say that the disruption on the logistic network at the European level, at least, has been one of the biggest problems that we have suffered. And perhaps if we think about rebounds, we should work on how to improve, how to avoid this kind of disruptions, because probably we could find solutions for that, that kind of blockage of the borders. Okay, and if we find ways to avoid it in the future, it will be, in my mind, a very big improvement in future situations. Okay, if we can find solution to not to block the network of the logistic networks through possible future crisis, it will be far better for our economy. Have you thought about that? Are there initiatives working on this?
I think this problem was very important 1 month ago. Now it is it's not a big problem, for example, for our producers. And we need to divide problems to long-term and short-term problems. And logistic disruptions, it was a problem during the peak of a crisis, and maybe we need to discuss what to do in the future if it will happen.
Yeah, that's the point. We need to be prepared for a possible rebound. But I didn't hear. I have not heard about proposals on that sense. I'm sure that there are some, but I didn't hear about that.
Good morning. And also, if rebound is in a different season for agriculture, is really different for solutions.
Thank you, Aurora. So, Grigoris.
Thank you very much. I think it was very useful that we went deeper into the case, and it is also very useful the fact that we mentioned the rebound possibility. It would be much better if that was not the case. But nevertheless, I think that this proves a little bit the sustainability of the solutions that were developed or collected in the short-term challenges regarding that. I was now reading through a report we prepared in a European project called Smart Agri Hubs, where we tried to map the responses, the existing solution and the responses. It turns out that the vast majority of the meaningful solutions cluster around two pillars. The one pillar is related to harvesting, and there we have from robotic technologies on the hardware to social apps that help people to find ways to work. And the other big part is relating to connecting consumers with producers. And there, the majority of the solutions are on the software side. I would say, although we see some very interesting ideas about smart labeling and so on and so forth. Therefore, I think that these part of the solutions are the ones that we will have to take out of the drawer if by any means we have a rebound. Now, indeed, this would be different if we're not in the harvesting season. But nevertheless, we can never predict the timing of the rebound, and we cannot predict its geographical nature. So I think that a work that is currently done in collecting the solutions, in keeping a registry or a catalog of the solutions, and knowing where to find the right teams to implement them locally is a first step that we need not to forget. I mean, we need to remember that these solutions are not made for this case only. On the other hand, I would like to highlight that in the medium term, it's very important to apply some design thinking into the assignment, namely to create food systems and value chains that are resilient into this new situation that we cannot predict, and we cannot predict the source of a similar disruption in the future. It might be related to environmental issues, it might be related to climate change. In any case, in the past, we had the three pillars of sustainability, economic, social, and environmental. Now I think we have to add another dimension into that, and this is the resilience, the capacity to avoid huge disruptions, even where some constants of the system are not functioning as they should. So I think that this will be the key word for the planning of the next period, and I think that that's why we need to look also at the midterm, because in the future rebounds of this or any other nature may happen. Now we know. It's 1 year ago, very few of us would predict something like that, or we would be considered as very pessimist. But now we know how tough it can be, and we know what other parameters we need to take into account. So I think that both ways should work. I can share with the team solutions that we have identified for the response period, and this could be also useful, I guess, in the rebound. But also we can organize some activities ourselves as the working group. We can possibly organize an event open to the sector, open to our members, open to the agri-food and food processing industry, where we can present such solutions, and we can even give them the possibility to show different approaches into the same problem, or discuss common challenges, or possibly initiate collaborations. I think that this is also something that we need to take into account, because we are in a way representing the demand side of the solutions of the problem, but it's possibly time to start a fruitful dialogue with the supply side. And I think that the same goes also. I wouldn't like to overlook the role of bioeconomy here and the circular economy, because this will be, at least in our opinion, as we described before, this would be the other important aspect apart from digital transformation. Digital transformation indeed can provide both long-term solutions, but also quick fixes. But the circular part should also be part of our narrative.
Perfect. I totally agree. You are an inspiration. So we will organize a meeting, an internal meeting very soon. It's possible next week. We will keep in contact just to organize it. Okay. But I insist, it will be wonderful. It will be very good when we have more digitalized or robotics devices on our farms, and a better tracking system and so on. But if the borders are blocked, we will have a lot of similar problems. Okay, so we need to think also about policy measures and perhaps recommendation to our governments, best practice, to share best practice with them, and to make this kind of sharing experiences, creating a kind of guidelines, perhaps for our governments to say, okay, why not to use this kind of distribution that is working on Portugal? Why not to use it in our country, Romania, or whatever? Okay, I want to stress that point. We need to focus on what has really created the problems. Okay, the disruptions, and I think that yeah, that's very, very important to be covered during our analysis. Okay, but you are totally right, and we will continue working. Thank you, everyone. It's time to close. I suppose, Diedrus, Grigoris, that you are comfortable if we share your letter. Is that right? Can we share your letter in our summary of the day?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. You are invited to join us tomorrow. Okay, that we are going to speak about social economy, the social economy ecosystem. And social economy is part of every other ecosystem, because fortunately there are a lot of people working on every area from this perspective, the social one. Okay, thank you, and see you tomorrow, I hope. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.